Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Hope you're all doing well and keeping safe. Going to be talking today about Timo Werner's first words as a Chelsea player, also the future of Kepa Arrizabalaga and potential replacements this summer. But before we get into any of that, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also hit that like button if you're enjoying the content because it helps out the channel as well. Firstly, Timo Werner. I spoke about him in yesterday's edition of Let's Talk Chelsea, talking about his first training session at Cobham. Of course, he was at the game against Wolves on Sunday and he did an interview, and finally that interview got released by the club yesterday. So just going to go through some of his quotes that I picked out and then we'll talk about it after. So here's what he had to say. So firstly, he was asked about why he joined Chelsea and was Frank Lampard a key component of it. He said Lampard was the main point. We talked about things like system, how he wants to play and sees me playing, and how the system fits to me. He's a really nice guy who not only told me what he wants from me as a player because he wants to help me as a guy. It was for me a dream which came true because Chelsea is a very big club. I know of the players before when they won the Champions League with Drogba, Lampard, Cech. It felt like a little dream for me. I want to be part of a new era here. Some interesting quotes. I think the main point firstly was Lampard's influence. Very similar words to the words of Hakim Ziyech when he joined. I remember doing a video on some of the quotes he said and how sort of in detail Lampard was speaking to Ziyech about being in his system, what he's going to do next season, how Ziyech can fit in. And it very much feels like Timo Werner is the same. And hopefully we'll hear similar from maybe Kai Havertz and future signings as well. Very much there is a plan now to the structure of signings, and very much feels like Frank Lampard is at the forefront of these signings, where in the past you felt like signings coming into Chelsea, you didn't hear a lot about that, you know, the manager or the coach at the time being involved. But it very much feels like Petr Cech, Frank Lampard working together to get these players, and there very much is a plan to bring in them, and recruitment definitely seems to be improving and more linked up at Chelsea, which is a positive. Also, the influence, I think, is a big thing. When Timo Werner talks about the Champions League victory in 2012, and this was something I pointed out when we signed Werner, a couple months now since we signed him, and I pointed out that given his age, he would have grown up watching the likes of Frank Lampard and Petr Cech. And although, of course, Frank Lampard can't have the pull power of, say, a Jurgen Klopp or a Jose Mourinho or a Pep Guardiola because of course, his coaching CV, what he does have in his favour is his CV as a player, which is a big influence on young players and how successful it was. And I think that was a big thing. And it's something that quite clearly is having an impact currently. Yes, being Chelsea, being a big club, our recent history, winning big trophies, also the money investment we have to attract big players is a big part of it as well. But I think that's really interesting. It's the words you want to hear about Frank Lampard, his system. You know, we've debated a lot about what Frank Lampard's system is. What is it going to look like in maybe a year's time? And it's good to see the players coming in, not only talking about, you know, coming to Chelsea as a big club, but also how they're going to fit in. It feels like Frank Lampard very much has a clear vision for that next season. And I think it's very interesting to me how Timo Werner is going to fit in. There's a lot of debate. We've had debates about how it could shape up. I think flexibility and versatility is something that Lampard very much craves. I feel like Mason Mount for me is a prime example, and it's probably the best sort of example of the type of player I think Frank Lampard wants in his system because of how successful Mason Mount is, because he can play in a variety of positions. I don't think Timo Werner is going to be as sort of fluid in terms of that. I don't think you'll see him one week playing left wing, striker and right wing. I may be wrong on that, but I think he very much will of course be a forward for Chelsea. But it just gives Chelsea that option now of Timo Werner, maybe in certain situations as we've seen with Olivier Giroud, how good he's been for us recently, where potentially those two could play together and they could potentially get the best out of Werner, maybe when playing against a low block. And in other games you play Werner in a quick rapid front three with the likes of Pulisic and Ziyech and other players as well. So yeah, great to hear Timo Werner speak. Hopefully it won't be too long till we'll see him on the pitch. Please let me know your opinions on this interview. Go and watch the full thing as well. I'll leave the link in the description box below for the full interview on Chelsea's website. But yeah, let me know your opinions on Werner's first words as a Chelsea player. Next is about goalkeeper. We know Chelsea are in search for a new goalkeeper this summer. It's one of our big priorities, and we know Kepa Arrizabalaga is likely not to be at Chelsea next season. This is from Sky Sports here that Chelsea head coach Frank Lampard wants a new goalkeeper this summer. They explained that Chelsea are looking at a list of goalkeepers including Jan Oblak, Andre Onana and Nick Pope. Atletico Madrid have said that Oblak is not for sale, so Chelsea would have to pay his 110 million release clause to get him. Onana would be the cheaper option. He wants to move to the Premier League and Ajax will listen to offers. Nick Pope established himself as one of the best goalkeepers in in the Premier League this season, keeping 15 clean sheets at Burnley. And then there's a few more in-depth stats on Kepa Arrizabalaga and also comparing him to some of Chelsea's big targets this summer. Chelsea conceded 54 goals in the Premier League this season, more than any other side in the top half of the table. Kepa is top for conceding more goals than expected since 2018-19 in the Premier League. Kepa has conceded 12.5 more goals than expected according to expected goals data, as you can see on your screen with this graph, which of course Kepa Arrizabalaga, Willy Caballero, Jan Oblak, Andre Onana and Nick Pope. So not very good reading for Kepa, but we already know that with the stats, the XG stats this season, very poor for a keeper of his standing and especially for a team like Chelsea, and it needs to improve next season. And then you go through the targets. I spoke about them a bit last week in the video. Onana, Dean Henderson, Nick Pope, I haven't spoken about that much, and of course Jan Oblak. Of course, start off with the most obvious one, the biggest name on this list, Jan Oblak. It's a ridiculous fee and very much feels like, to me, I just feel it's going to be a step too far this summer for Chelsea. I may be proven wrong. Kai Havertz, I think, is a prime example of how serious Chelsea are this summer. But I just think seeing Havertz, how high of a fee that's going to be, and Oblak in the same summer, I just cannot see it personally. And I think that, yes, Chelsea could maybe afford Oblak, especially by raising funds through selling players, some of the big players who may be out on loan as well. Maybe some players in the current squad, Chelsea could raise funds by selling this summer. But as we've spoken about on the channel before, players like Kepa, players like Batshuayi, other players as well, it's going to be difficult to ship those players out this summer. It really is, especially for the sort of fee that Chelsea want for some of their bigger players. I think Jorginho is another one that maybe falls into that category. Chelsea probably not willing to sell him for anything less than they bought him for in 2018. So that's going to be a massive challenge for Chelsea to get some of these players out of the club for a good fee this summer. And of course, Atletico not willing to sell. I think that if we were to sign Oblak, which would be incredible, I think that would be it for the summer transfers. I just think it really would. I mean, and then you're sort of asking yourself, you know, would you sacrifice getting a new left back and getting a new centre back for just signing Jan Oblak? He would be an incredible signing, but would he fix all of Chelsea's problems, or could Chelsea look elsewhere and maybe sign players for a little bit cheaper that then could help Chelsea as well and maybe solve the problem next season? There's no doubt that Oblak is probably, in some people's eyes, the best keeper currently in the world. But, you know, I also think comparing this with Andre Onana, which is another big keeper Chelsea are apparently in for this summer, he's good with his feet. You know, he's got Champions League experience. It's not a ridiculous fee. I think for distribution-wise, the type of football, progressive football Frank Lampard wants to play, I think distribution with your feet is a big thing. Yes, I know the stats on Kepa make you believe, you know, of course, we need a keeper who can just do the basic things, right? Saving shots that go into our goal. But I think as well, just the style of football I think Frank Lampard wants to play, I think that will come into the equation as well when Petr Cech is making these lists about goalkeepers to come in for Chelsea. Nick Pope and Dean Henderson, I think similar, you know, Premier League experience. You know, Pope, I think, is an interesting option because I don't think it would be a ridiculous fee to get him out of Burnley. He's been brilliant and the stats show that. You know, he only lost out for the Golden Glove on the final day to Ederson from Man City. So it shows how good he's been. He had an incredible performance at Anfield a couple of weeks ago for Burnley, and he very much knows the league. Chelsea need height, they need dominance, they need a physical keeper who can deal with the extreme physicality of the Premier League next season. It's not just about looking good with the ball at your feet, it's set piece wise. Chelsea need to drastically improve their defending at set piece, and maybe bringing in a keeper like Nick Pope, who is accustomed to that at Burnley, could be an improvement. And as well, you know, cheaper fee as well could be really good for Chelsea as well. Dean Henderson I've spoken about before, I think it'd be difficult to get him out of Man United this summer, but I think maybe something could change there if Dean Henderson wants first team football desperately. I've said this before, but I think very much after the signing of Kai Havertz is probably confirmed soon, Chelsea would then focus on the defence. And I think firstly, goalkeeper, it very much depends on how serious and how much funds there is to spend on a goalkeeper. Are Chelsea willing to go all out for Jan Oblak? Yes, an absolutely astonishing signing if it gets done as well, and makes this the most ridiculous transfer window of all time. Also, how it could affect their recruitment in other areas Chelsea need to strengthen in. So I think that's something to consider as well. By no means am I saying Jan Oblak is a bad keeper and we shouldn't go for him. I think he would be absolutely astonishing. But I think Andre Onana, I think, could be very interesting. Ajax fans, I've heard Ajax fans, you know, saying he's one of their players of the season. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on him, but when I have seen him, he has been impressed, and just the raw numbers tell you he's been better than Kepa this season, and that's something Chelsea need to improve on. And I say distribution goes in Onana's favour, and also on top of that, Chelsea have good business with Ajax already, and that fee is a little bit lower, so maybe realistically that could be a deal that could get done. But let me know your opinions on Chelsea's goalkeeping options. Who do you think Chelsea will go in for this summer? Do you think Jan Oblak is realistic? Other goalkeepers as well, please let me know in the comments below. But that is it for this edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch it. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea. Have a great day, and I'll see you again.